yes, it certainly was.
And
it was catastrophic.
Catastrophic. But what nobody has yet heard is a proper apology. Anybody at the top of the party saying, yes,
Okay.
this is on us.
Okay, let me make it clear then. It's on me. It's on me. Let's take it on the chin. I own this disaster. So I apologise. I apologise to all those wonderful Labour MPs who've lost their seats, who worked so hard. I apologise to all our campaigners, but most of all, I apologise to those people who desperately need a Labour government. And yes, you know, if anyone's to blame, it is me, full stop.
So taking that then on the chin, you talk about the responsibility being yours, and you're one of those people that Len McCluskey accused of going onto the media and talking in a way which gave the impression to leave voters across the country, but particularly in the North and Midlands, that the Labour Party was now a Remain party led by Remain Londoners.
Len's got a point. The bulk of our members campaigned for Remain and were solid in Remain. About 70%, I think, one the poll showed. But the bulk of Labour MPs, a large number of Labour MPs, like me, represented Leave seats. So we're on the horns of a dilemma. If we campaigned for Remain, we would lose Leave voters. If we campaigned solely for Leave, we'd lose Remain. It was either way we were going to be hammered. But what we tried to do is bring both sides together, and we failed. It just, the tactic, the strategy, whatever you call it, didn't work.
According to the polling of Labour voters who defected in this election to the Tories, it says for about 31%, Brexit was the biggest issue, but for 45%, it was the Labour leadership itself. Jeremy Corbyn, I know he's an old friend and a comrade, but he went down very, very badly on the doorstep.
Look, we have to recognise, I think it was Brexit that did us. We were in this horns of a dilemma. We couldn't move either way, or if we did and we tried the compromise, it didn't work. That's the first thing. The second, we have to recognise that, look, the media did a number on Jeremy for 4 years solid, every day. Let me just finish this. Every tack, every smear was going on. And they transposed someone who I know is a man of honesty and principle into someone demonised in a way no other politician on this scale has been done before. And I deeply regret that.
And yet, he was also seen directly by huge numbers of people through his media performance on television and radio. People did see him, and they did get a sense of him. Let me read you what one former MP, Anna Turley, who was the MP for Redcar, said. And she's quite typical of what a lot of your ex-MPs are saying. She said, for every time that Brexit was raised on the doorstep, the leadership was raised 4 times. Even by those sticking with us, there was visceral anger from lifelong Labour voters. They felt they couldn't vote for a party they'd supported all their lives because of, quotes, that man at the top.
2 issues there. One is, actually, I do blame the media. I know people say, oh, he's just blaming the media, but look at the evidence of the last few years, the way in which Jeremy has been treated in the media. Secondly, on the broadcast media, when he had the opportunity to broadcast media, actually it's interesting in the polling, he was seen as the most trustworthy of the candidates. The person, let me just say, on this polling point, they're also the person who is most in tune with people's day-to-day concerns. I don't think we had the opportunity through the broadcast media that we had right the way through the last 4 years. So, yes, I think the portrayal of Jeremy was unfortunate. Also, of course, some members of our own team were attacking him for a period, but that settled down as we went into the campaign overall.
Keeping away from the internal attacks, nonetheless, his leadership polling ratings were absolutely catastrophic, minus 44, even at their best at times. Now that is really, really low, way below Boris Johnson's ratings, for instance, and so people did not like what they saw.
But isn't it interesting, though, because here we like, I don't go into personalities, but let's at least explore some of the objective issue on this. Here we have Boris Johnson, who is a proven liar, who's been sacked from a couple of jobs for lying.
And a victorious Prime Minister.
And yet contrast that with someone who is known for his honesty and principle. So why did people vote for one and not the other? I actually think it was largely the media portrayal. And I find in this whole discussion from the future, we need to examine the nature of our politics. Let me just finish this point. One recent examiner by Loughborough University of the campaign looked at social media. And they found that 80% of the advertising by the Tories was either distorted, smear or inaccurate. On Labour's, 0%. There has to be an open discussion now about the nature of our politics in our country, the way social media and the media and other elements operate as well.
Do you not acknowledge there was something about Jeremy Corbyn, and perhaps you, that a lot of traditional Labour voters did not like? Maybe it was the past support for Irish republicanism and Hamas and all of that. It might have been, but there was something there. I've got lots of quotes. I'm going to read you just one more from a Labour MP who was re-elected, your last MP in Scotland, Ian Murray. He says, "Every door I knocked on, and my team and I spoke to 11,000 people, mentioned Corbyn. Not Brexit, but Corbyn. I've been saying this for years. The outcome is that we've let the country down and we must change course and fast."
Okay, I have a lot of time for Ian, but he'll admit he's not, from the beginning, was never really...
Well, he says himself.
He's never really the most solid Jeremy supporter, but there you are. However, he's reflecting what he had heard on the doorstep. I think that was about the media portrayal of Jeremy than the reality. But let's have the debate about the nature of our politics, the nature of the reportage of our politics, and the nature, I think, the way they treat individuals. Because it wasn't just Jeremy. They did the same to Ed Miliband. They did the same to Neil Kinnock.
So you don't think it's anything to do with the actual characters at the top of the Labour Party?
I think it's anyone who challenges the establishment will be portrayed in this way. Why? Because the establishment owned the media in this country.
Okay,
however, that doesn't mean to say mistakes weren't made, and I'm sure there's elements of my politics and my character that could be taken apart. I accept that. But I think if you look at anyone who's challenged the system, of course the system will throw the kitchen sink at you, and that's what happened.
All right, we started this interview by you saying, I take responsibility,
I
it's on me, it's my blame.
Yes.
So for what?
For not being able, first of all, I think, to articulate during the campaign how we could get through the Brexit dilemma that we're on effectively, and also maybe it is about the communication of our politics, but also I think to not recognising just actually the scale of the attack that would come at us. But you know, this is politics, these are campaigns, and those people who are leading these campaigns, you have to take responsibility, and I do.
Let me put something else to you, which is the policy agenda,
Yeah.
the manifesto. You were very, very proud of it. Jeremy Corbyn was very, very proud of it, but it did not work. Is it just possible that with all this very fast renationalisation, with the tax and the spending, it was just too much, too fast, too big?
Might have been, and I think if there was one criticism, and this is a self-criticism, it's not having a narrative that would convince people about how this all fitted together. That's one of the lessons to learn from this campaign for the future.
If you'd said this is a sort of 10-year programme to get Britain back to social democratic levels of spending, and this is how we're going to do it year by year by year, you might have had a much better chance of cutting through.
Well, I did, but I don't think that was listened to. I did say it was a 10-year programme. We had what I was saying in the first 5 years we laid the foundation. If you remember, our Green Transformation Fund was a 10-year investment programme, and I did look at the scaling of that up, but that never cut through because in the rush of a campaign you never get that detail understood.
But you ended up talking about billions as if they were pennies almost. There was billions of this and billions for that and billions for the next thing.
Interestingly enough, what happened was that people were saying, well, how much does that cost? So you had to give them the figure. What we then tried to do is translate that into regional manifestos. So how did that relate to your local community? How do you translate that into real concrete change at a local level?
I'm still wondering whether people like you have absolutely absorbed the scale of what's happening. You came quite close as a party to being absolutely annihilated. It could have been the end
Completely
of the Labour Party.
Oh, don't think I don't underestimate that. Don't think I haven't sat down, and it isn't. The thing for me isn't. This isn't a football game. This isn't about losing a game. That I'm not a career politician. This is about changing the lives of people who suffered for 10 years under austerity. This is the big one that never really got debated in the election campaign was climate change. We're facing our planet at risk, and the next 5 years, whether a fossil fuel committed government is going to put on edge whether we can meet any climate change targets at all. So I don't underestimate the seriousness of this. My constituents here, I've got a housing crisis. I've got people living in real poverty. Without a Labour government now, nothing will help them.
And you failed them. You failed them.
I admit that completely. And it's a tragedy, not just for me personally, more importantly for them.
Now, there are a lot of people in the Labour Party, as you know, who think the proper response to this is for you and Jeremy Corbyn to stand on some public platform, more or less now, and say, we accept we've failed and we're going now.
Let's be clear. I think the policy programme we've advocated and the analysis society that we've advocated is the correct one. And I think that holds sway within the Labour Party. Interestingly, no one argued with any individual policy, no member of the Parliamentary Labour Party or any of the party itself. So we signed up to the political analysis that we've got and the programme we advocate. The issue for us is how do we get that message across? How do we have a proper narrative? How do we cut through the media avalanche against us in campaigns like this? And that's what we've got to do.
By when do you think you will be gone?
Okay, normally, thank you for putting it that way, normally it would be the NEC would determine the timescale, usually 8 to 10 weeks, something like that. And then, so you're looking at early in the new year.
Because I'm asking because there are London elections and there are local elections coming up in the spring.
It will obviously be sorted before then, and we'll have a new leadership in. I won't be part of the shadow cabinet. I'll stand down, and Jeremy will as well. We'll have a new generation of leaders coming in who are incredibly talented, incredibly enthusiastic, and now experienced as well. I'm looking forward to their leaderships.
It's no great secret that you'd like to see Rebecca Long-Bailey take over. There are people who think that you and Jeremy Corbyn are hanging on in order to, as it were, fix in some respects the next leadership.
No, we can't do that. Look, the leadership election will be determined by the NEC. All the details of that, there's strict rules and timescales, etc. I think you look at the new generation coming forward. Becky is brilliant. I think she's excellent, and she could be a brilliant leader. You've got alongside her Angie Rayner. You've got alongside people Richard Berger and
Lisa Nandy, Jess
a whole
Phillips.
Range of people. You can see a whole team developing of this new generation. Dawn Butler, and what's interesting, it's interesting how many women are actually there, young women. My view is I think it should be a woman leader next time, and I've said that consistently.
And there are lots of women. Now, some are, as it were, in your part of the Labour Party, and some are not. Can you be honest brokers between them?
No, it's not for us to do that. I think it's for the members to decide who will be the next leader and the next team, and the members will decide that. I don't think there's any difference, much difference anyway in terms of policy. They're all signed up the policy of the programme, but I think they'll want to modernise it. And for people like
you could swallow somebody like Jess Phillips, who's been critical of the leadership, as the next leader.
I prefer others. But the members will decide. You know, Jess is really talented, and I hope she comes on board, and that'll be great. She'll have a great contribution to make because she speaks from the grassroots. But I want someone who actually has been, really solidly involved in the development of our existing policy. That's why Becky and Angie and Dawn and others have been so good.
This has been very much a period when the Labour Party has been led from London by Londoners. Do you think it is time, given what's happened to the so-called Red Wall, for somebody who is not from London to be leading the Labour Party?
Well, I represent a London seat, but I'm a Scouser by birth, and I have family up north. That's where my family are. So this sort of was led by London. I have as much to do at the north as I do of my constituency in London. I think it is most probably time for a non-metropolitan. I think it's time for a non-London MP to, and we need a northern voice as much as possible. But remember, Jeremy
Lisa Nandy.
Well, there's a whole range of people out there that can come forward. You know my view. I think Becky Long-Bailey's done a great job, but you've got a team there. You've got a real team. Angie Rayner on education and in the debates, mopped up in terms of the opposition. And if you look at Dawn Butler, what she's done as well, although she's from London and all the rest, but look at the work that she's done about the BAME community, but wider on equalities. These are a terrific team.
So you've talked about the team, you've talked about the NEC. Do you also accept that responsible for this catastrophic defeat are an awful lot of the advisors and the people around you and Jeremy Corbyn? It's not just you personally, it's the team that you've created, it's the NEC, it's the people at the top of the party.
Look, when you're in an elected position, you take responsibility. You don't blame advisors, If you have a defeat like this, take it on the chin, own it, move on, lay the foundations for the future and move on, and that's what I'll do. But I'm not going away. I'll be on. My big thing now is climate change. It's the existential threat. So what you'll find me doing is working in communities on the issue of climate change. And yes, I'll be back on picket lines and demonstrations as well as in Parliament, because that's the role of a Labour MP.
It does sound to perhaps that Team Corbyn and Mcdonnell are still trying to fix the party for the next generation of people in your image,
it's not for us.
Having been rejected by the voters.
Look, we're not into that sort of conniving politics of the past. We've never been that. We're grassroots politicians. We're grassroots socialists. We believe that in the collective, not in the individuals. Politics is not a career. It's more of a vocation. This is about our membership. We've built a mass movement. We're a social movement now. Nearly 500,000 members. We're the biggest party in Western Europe. That movement will take a decision. It won't be individual leaders. And also, I've said time and time again, when we elect a Labour government, this isn't about a group of Labour MPs going away and changing the world. We all go into government. Everybody, every member, everyone has a community idea. Everyone's got a creative idea. We're a movement now. No one can fix a movement. What we've got to do is allow democracy to take place.
John Mcdonnell, in front of the most famous floral curtains in the country. Thanks very much for talking to us.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you.